Three great moments in history when inflation destroyed countries. Think about it. You wake up one morning and the bread you bought for 10 lira yesterday costs 40 lira today. The next day, it costs 120 lira. A week later, the seller says, "There's no bread left," because money is no longer money. Throughout history, inflation has destroyed not only economies, but also societies, governments, and systems. Here are the three great disasters. 1. Weimar Germany, the era when money was used for heating. Germany in the 1920s. World War I debts, war reparations, and the unstoppable printing of money plunged the country into the worst hyperinflation disaster in history. So much so that if people didn't rush to the store the moment they received their paychecks, money would lose value within 2 hours. Children used wads of money like toy bricks at school, and people burned banknotes in stoves instead of wood, because paper money was cheaper than wood. When a loaf of bread required a wheelbarrow full of money, society lost complete trust in the government. This economic collapse laid the groundwork for the political turmoil that would later plunge Germany into an even darker era. 2. Zimbabwe, the country where the $100 trillion banknote was printed in the 2000s. Hyperinflation in Zimbabwe reached such a pitch that the central bank printed a 100 trillion Zimbabwean banknote. Yes, a real banknote with 14 zeros. A loaf of bread was worth $50 billion in the morning, but by the evening, it was worth $200 billion. Even government salaries were paid weekly because no one believed the money would be useful at the end of the month. People carried sacks of money but could only buy a bottle of milk in return. Eventually, the public abandoned its own currency entirely and switched to dollars. Thus, Zimbabwe effectively lost its own currency. 3. Venezuela, a modern-day story of collapse. The final example comes from today's world. In the late 2010s, inflation in Venezuela reached an annual rate of 1,000,000%. Grocery shelves were empty. A month's salary was no longer enough to buy a package of pasta. People waited in lines for hours for basic food. Doctors fled the country, and power outages became a daily occurrence. Once one of the richest countries in Latin America, Venezuela became the world's fastest deteriorating country due to inflation. Conclusion: inflation is not just about rising prices. It is an invisible, destructive force that erodes public trust, people's living standards, and a country's future. History teaches us this: when money loses value, everything loses value. Trust, social order, even a country's stability.